Alright, well, per the usual arrangement, my voice is super quiet for some reason, but whatever, I guess.
Hmm.
Alright, welcome, ladies, gentlemen, to this exclusive interview with Alex Studios Inc. He's recently made his return to the Immersiverse Discord server after 9 months since his retirement from the Immersiverse. So we're here to kind of pick his brain, ask him a few questions regarding the Immersiverse, his departure, some other incidents that have developed between then, and yeah, just kind of trying to get a feel for Alex Studios Inc. as a person, and especially kind of the time he's had in the Immersiverse, as he was especially involved in its peak in 2020 to 2023. So I believe this is going to be rather interesting. So, well, I already kind of did a little intro for you, but if you want to tell the audience anything else, go for it.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Um, yeah. It's been quite a long time since I've kind of interacted with the Immersiverse community space or Scratch as a whole. I guess I've uh, undergone a full identity transformation since then. It's no longer Alex Studios Inc. Actually, it's more like Aziolotl now, or Aziel now. So, yeah. But I guess a lot has changed since everything, so yeah.
So, before we dive into the heavy stuff, let's just take a little bit of time to try to catch up. I'm sure I kind of know a few things that have been going on in the past few months, but why don't we tell the audience what you've been up to since September, or even since, I don't know, what have you been up to since you left the Immersiverse? Just kind of certainly not being stagnant, definitely rolling stone.
Yeah, so since I left I guess I've just been shifting a lot of my workloads into many different kinds of things lately. I've been getting into more projects outside of Scratch lately, like Lumea Legends Run from Royalty, even committing more towards my own projects within the ACM lately. I guess I'm finally beginning work on my recent project that has been in my mind for around 5-ish years now, I guess. And I guess I'm finally getting the ball rolling with production on that project. But outside of production things, I've been focusing more on my education lately. I've actually just graduated this year with, I guess, a full 2 semesters of straight A's, which I'm pretty happy about, which is kind of the first for my entire high school life. And I'm also getting ready for my big move for next month. I'm now packing my things and getting ready to move to Texas. Hopefully, from there I'll be able to find myself a pretty good job there, and see from there where I can continue my advancements towards my projects and helping out with other people with their own productions as well. So, yeah.
Very nice, very nice. I know you touched on it a little bit there. I don't know how in depth you want to go, but what's this 5-year project you're talking about here?
Well, I've had a lot of projects that I usually do in the background. A lot of them that I haven't actually told about at all in the Immersiverse. I guess this 5-year project is one of those that I'm finally starting to shed some light on. It's a project that was initially codenamed Project Breathtaker. It's a project that's actually going to be called Toothless and Light Fury, which is pretty much a let me see if I have the premise around here somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, so it centers pretty much around a as you can tell, it's inspired by How to Train Your Dragon. but at the same time, it's more distinct. It follows its own rules. It's more like a standalone universe type of things. It follows a Night Fury who pretty much finds a Light Fury, but upon doing so, it pretty much sets a huge chain of reactions that endangers both of their lives and their civilizations as they know it. They must have to settle their differences and come together to try to solve a ongoing epidemic within the hidden world that is actually corrupted and has a pretty bad guy there. Yeah. So hopefully, as of right now, I'm currently in its pre-production stage. I'm still getting an outline fleshed out for the pilot episode. Hopefully, I may be able to finish it and get it ready by early next year, or at the latest, maybe like late 2028, I would assume. Which hopefully would give me enough time to get everything ready in terms of animation and voice acting and stuff. Hopefully, but mainly I'm just trying to get a story in line for it to get the ball rolling. So, yeah.
Very nice. You said this is a standalone universe, right? Like taking elements from How to Train Your Dragon, but putting your own kind of spin on it, right?
Yeah, just like that. It's a standalone universe.
Very nice. I know you said you're taking a break from Scratch, or like haven't interacted with Scratch, so this series, I assume, probably not going to be made in Scratch, right?
No. Definitely, I've recently upgraded into newer software lately, and that's using those latest software like Affinity, Moho, Blender, and DaVinci Resolve. It'll be YouTube prioritized, I guess. Maybe if in the long run, I may hopefully be able to see if I could get this on future streaming services as well. But that's like in the really long line. Long run, I mean, yeah.
You've been working on that for 5 years, you said?
Well, the idea has been around for 5 years, yeah. The actual development finally began the beginning of this year. It was usually like a 5-year process of trying to develop the idea for seeing how the story would flesh out and stuff like that. I wasn't able to actually start back then because I didn't have the skills or resources needed to get it out in the vision that I wanted. But times have changed. It's 2026 and I managed to upgrade, and at last I'm finally getting started with it. So
very nice. Take a page out of my book. I'm just gonna take 5 years to do the one project.
yeah, a lot of my other projects have been around even older than that, like maybe dating back to, well, I guess my current recent oldest project I haven't worked is like dating back in 2020, I would believe, and it's still being worked on right now. I wouldn't expect this thing to be out until like maybe 2040, I think, because it's still years away. But yeah,
get like actual actors to work on it.
Yeah, but of course, but I'm pretty proud with the current actors I have with Toothless and Light Fairy so far. It's gonna be pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, where'd you find them?
I gathered them from Casting Call Club. I've been trying to, instead of doing like casting calls, I usually do a hand-picking procedure instead, which I just usually just search for people that I'm looking for and try to see if that specific person that I want has the voice that I envision in my head for a character, and then I just reached out to them. So and then you go from there.
You're on Casting Call Club just as like a producer, or do you do voice acting work by yourself too?
I also do voice acting work. I guess I still try and train myself a little bit to get a little bit of voice acting, a little bit of my voice acting a little better. But one of my recent works that I did like last year was Ruby Illusion's Toothless's story, in which I did the voice of Toothless himself. And I guess it was kind of my first actual step into outside voice acting. So hopefully I'll be able to see where I could continue my voice acting career from there.
You do any cameo roles in your Toothless and Light Fury series, or no? Like
Animating roles?
No, I mean
Oh,
like a voice cameo, or no, just like
oh, yeah, I guess I'll be there like a very minor voice cameo, like something like a Stan Lee thing, I guess.
you just see in the corner of one frame, just like Aziolotl, just like hanging out.
Yeah, yeah. Or just like a random dragon with my voice, I guess.
Back is killing me. Seed has no backrest. It is not good. Never get old, Alex. It is terrible.
Yeah. I'm learning. I'm starting to learn that now, I suppose.
Evan, did your knee go out?
I guess it just I guess nothing major is really happening lately. Sometimes I get like tiny bits of cramps on my wrist whenever I'm doing some drawing and stuff like that.
Oh, carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah. Carpal tunnel.
That's how you know you're a real gamer.
Yes. I guess that's really nothing compared to my scooter incident last year.
Oh no.
Yeah. I was riding my scooter back from school, and then an hour away I was about to get ready for work, but as I was driving back home, my scooter got stuck in like a pothole, and I literally flung out of the scooter, like literally flying. And I used both of my hands to brace, and
Oh no.
yeah, my right hand took most of the impact.
Very nice. Well, I don't know if nice is the right word talking about you flying out of your scooter, but
Right. But I'm doing better, so that's nice, I guess.
we're gonna try to dip our toes into some heavier stuff if that's alright with you.
All right.
Alright, so let's rewind. Well, let's start from the beginning, sort of. How did Scratch Revolutions first start?
Well, Scratch Revolutions kind of started out like a random project I had in the back of my mind back in very early 2021. It was like probably like in its very budding stages, but like it was pretty much like a simple idea of what could be a good way to see how I can make a conclusion to the recent two projects that were made back in that time, like the Scratch Saga and the Unfamous. Pretty much I was trying to experiment with creating my own trilogy, I guess, sort of things. It was like the Scratch Saga, the Unfamous, and then in the end, Scratch Revolutions.
Oh, so
I guess-
we're gonna like try to stack the two together?
Yeah,
Oh, I
pretty
see,
much
I
like
see.
that. After that, though, I guess the ideas were just floating there, but they just haven't really gone anywhere yet. It was just mainly like very conceptual ideas of like a Scratch multiverse and seeing how I could unite the villains together to see like what would they do if they were brought together in like a big battle. But that was like very early in the stages before I would get my major inspiration for SR, which was Spider-Man No Way Home. But that's like later on, very later on, like after 2021. So
That's about July, maybe like summer of 2021.
I think I was like December of 2021 was when No Way Home came out. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a good memory. Nice. So, No Way Home comes out December 2021, but so does the Unfamous finale.
I think the finale for the Unfamous came in December of 2020, I would believe.
Did it? Oh no, I'm a LARPer.
Oh no.
Oh no, it's Jover.
I think it was also like at the end of 2020 was also that time where I created those two DVDs with the Scratch Saga and the Unfamous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember where I put them though.
Oh no.
Yeah. I think they're probably lost in time now.
No! Lost media.
I'm sad.
Holy cow, you're right. It was December 20th, 2020. Oh, I'm a LARPer. Oh no. They're gonna take away my headship now. It's Jover.
Who?
It's Gobover. It's Peakover. So, what happens? You see Spider-Man No Way Home, December 2021. You walk out, you're thinking peak cinema. Then what happens?
Well, two things kind of happened. I guess, earlier, believe it or not, Scratch Revolutions, as the initial original state that it would become today, this was actually not the original multiverse idea that I initially went with from the beginning. Before that, that idea was initially slated for its earlier versions of Toothless and Light Fury.
Oh, so the multiverse kind of like idea from Toothless and Light Fury just kind of like carbon copied itself onto Scratch Revolutions. Like Scratch Revolutions wasn't really supposed to be a multiverse film, and it was just kind of accidentally being shaped by Toothless and Light Fury in that way.
Sort of ish, yeah. I guess they're pretty much copying from both of each other. Yeah, as like in the back of my mind, I suppose.
I'm remembering June 2022, big thing. Was there anything that happened between that point, you think, that you want to talk about?
June 2022? I think that was like, I believe that was the day that I think you shared your own draft of Scratch Revolutions,
Yeah.
which was probably the original one that we greenlit.
Was there anything that happened between then? Oh, you worked on your Infinity Gears reboot then, right?
Oh yeah. I guess it did. Ironically, just about a year after I started work on the idea of TXLF Infinity Gears, the reboot would come out on May 6th of 2022. I guess it was like pretty much my first stages into like a true reboot of the series as a whole, and me thinking more with the minds of an Immersiverse director.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
actually trying your own hand at like a series.
Yeah.
I see. Interesting.
And when I guess, yeah, the pilot went pretty good for Infinity Gears. It's still in its 2022s or 2020 range in terms of the animation quality, but I think it still lives up to it today. I think the May 6th date was definitely coincidental, I believe. I don't know if I released it to release alongside Doctor Strange 2, I think.
Well, Infinity Gears tickets were probably definitely cheaper. I think free is a bit cheaper than $15.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh yeah, you're right, it did coincide. Was it the plan from the get-go to include Infinity Gears in SR's multiverse roster, or?
I guess I think Infinity Gears was a part of the original plans for SR when it was getting more developed before the true SR draft would come in. Originally it was planned for these universes in mind, which were the Scratch Saga, the Slash Saga, the Unfamous, and Infinity Gears. I guess these four were the main default universes in mind for SR.
Anything happened in April, or?
No, I don't think much really happened on my end during April. I was probably working more on just random Scratch projects, I think.
So then June of 2022, things go a bit kaputsky. Well, walk us through what happened on your end.
Scratch Revolutions and the Uninvited, I believe. I think I do know the SR draft was proposed, which I looked over and gave it the green light. Initially, it would usually go through a lot of small rewrites here and there to see how it could be more polished in today and to get it ready for release. And also during that time, I was also still getting more changes to fit in with the current Immersiverse projects that were releasing at that time, like the Mad Jam audiobook and other stuff. But other than that, it was just multiple random rewrites.
What do you think of the draft? Yes, like did you like it? Do you think it was like do you think that's where the deviations kind of started, or?
Like the original draft, or?
Well, I know. Okay, so the storytelling on my end, I guess. I remember. Oh man, I think May maybe, or probably May. I somehow got access to the Infinity Gears doc and a bunch of others, including the Scratch Revolutions doc. So I kind of decided to write my own draft for SR. I guess kind of like prove myself. Like I wasn't really contributing too much to the Mercyverse at that time. Infamous, dead as always. So try to prove my mettle, especially because I saw this is like the big finale project. I was reading through it and I'm like, oh, I betcha I can make this kind of cool. So I did the draft from May, dropped it in June in the Immersiverse server, left for summer camp, and then came back. I got the green light, and then you had a private GC with me and Matt Jam about it, I think. You kind of remember what happened? I left, so I don't.
Honestly, I don't remember either. It was like 4 years ago, and I don't really remember where I put the group GC went. Maybe I probably left it, I think.
So compared to those original drafts that I found those drafts, and that's kind of what I was basing it off of. Do you think my draft started to deviate from your drafts, do you think?
The drafts that Matt Gem and I make, they're usually like, I guess, pretty much like the earliest stages of ideas that we went through to see how we could flesh out the story as a whole. And then when your draft came out, I looked into it and said to myself, wow, I guess this is pretty much the story that is exactly what I wanted to come out with from the very beginning. It was pretty much, honestly, it's deviated a little bit from the drafts, but in the best way possible, I guess. It was pretty much fully fleshed out into a fully cohesive and complete story that pretty much allowed me to give it the green light, I guess. In its own way, I guess your draft was pretty much the complete version of the drafts that we were making from the beginning, and the complete draft that we should have or could have envisioned from the beginning.
Do you start like animation work then, or no, still working on? Because I know we were doing a bunch of rewrites throughout 2023.
Yeah, I guess usually around 2023 it was usually around rewrites first, but at that time 2023 was when I started to begin work on voice acting work and started to give the lines for people who are going to be in the series, or I mean the film. That way I would be able to get the clips ahead of time, just in case if anything happens to them, like they leave Scratch or anything else, we would be able to have the clips ready ahead of time for when we start animation work.
2023, right? That's right. You were talking to Doggy Bob, right?
Yeah, he was the voice actor I had in mind for Wazo TV in the film.
Very nice. Right, you were talking to Wazo too, right?
Yeah, he was actually pretty fine with us using Cash in the project, which, from what I know, Hunted Scully was pretty, what's the word, I guess, pretty much just uncertain about whether or not adding Cash would be the right call for the Immersiverse.
Right. So I was talking with someone, and they brought up the idea of the heads kind of like defer other like fan projects to like AUs, right? Like whenever someone's like, "Hey, I have an idea for the Immersiverse," we usually like talk them out and we're like, "Oh, why don't you just do that in an AU? We'll see how it goes." And he was kind of like, "Why don't we hold the heads to that same standard?" What do you think of that kind of idea?
I suppose they use, or is it, I guess it's a, I think it would be an idea that would work essentially. I guess the small skeptic idea, the small skeptic point that I had was because if something would have become an AU, I guess it would just lose a little bit of credibility that the actual main universe has, which is something that um, I'm not, I'm still trying to think about, I guess. But I think it would, either way, I still think it would work pretty well, I believe.
You think that would have been something we could have tried applying to SR, you think?
Honestly, maybe. I guess the more I think about it now, I think it could have. I guess it could have worked better as an AU, I believe. The reason why the reason why I pushed back at that time was because um, I just feel like it just wouldn't feel like truly connect with the main Immersiverse chronological storyline that it had. But now, I guess it could have worked a little better as an AU, since there's a more open spot to work on the things much more effectively.
Ask Soul if she'll, what's it called, do it. She's already doing Reignited and Wildfire. What's one more AU? Have you read Wildfire already?
Not yet. I, I would like to read it.
I have not read it yet.
Is it out already?
Yeah, she released the first act on her birthday, I think. Yeah, it's on Unveil.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've had
I
those-
guess-
Oh, sorry about it.
Oh, yeah. I guess it was just around that time I wanted to see how I could expand the Immersiverse in like the best way possible. See how I would pretty much push it to new heights that haven't been done before. And
The 2023 era.
yeah, that 2023 era pretty much.
Phase 2, I think.
Phase 2, yeah, Phase 2.
You want to dive into that a little, or?
Yeah, so Phase 2 was like a conceptualized vision for what we as a team had in mind for what to do after Scratch Revolutions was done. I guess it pretty much all dives down to its few major projects in the line, which were Non-Human, Dynamic 6, and eventually as well as Andromissary, which was actually going to be, before it was going to become the quote-unquote finale of Phase 2, it was actually intended to be like a setup project for what I had in mind for a conceptual Unfamous 2 and 3, believe it or not, which those two were, in my mind, in kind of, like, I guess, the conceptual finales of Phase 2 in my mind. Initially, though, that idea in my mind just didn't really went anywhere, so I just went with Andromissary.
I was about to be like, can I say the title? But then you just went and said it. Sick.
Unfortunately, as when Phase 2 wasn't really going anywhere, I suppose almost all of the projects except Non-Human and Andromissary got shelved. Non-Human was, as the project rights, I'd initially handed them to Matchem. Usually the main character of Non-Human is Asher, who carries on her story from the Matchem audiobook. So I kind of knew he would do pretty well with the character. As for Andromedary, it was kind of just like with Infinity Gears, it was just split it away to become its own thing in the ACM at some point.
Found the thread. Immersiverse Phase 2 discussion started September 2022.
Just as you mentioned, I now remember there was another project slated at that time as well called the Everything Show Transtemporal, which is pretty much, which is going to be the setup project for the main bad guy of Phase 2.
That was going to be an ACM project, right?
I think this was like a separate ACM thing, like called the Scratch ACM. It was kind of separate from the Immersiverse.
Dive into
I guess
that.
I would.
Think you and I both know what we're talking about, but tell the audience, what is this ACM?
So, the ACM stands for the Alex Studios Cinematic Megaverse. It was pretty much like as you would think with the MCU, it's like a network of connected multiverses, not universes, a network of different multiverses within a single blob that focuses on different stories from each and different universe. Like in one universe, it would be like Prime Universe, which is like Earth. That would be like a story of something like Alex Einmeyer, the actual character, not just Alex Studios, like the actual character himself. We could see a story of that character. Whereas in another universe, in Toothless and Lightyear, that would be happening in the background. And it's pretty much be like just as you would expect with the MCU, but with animation characters. I guess the idea of that whole thing was, I guess it all dated back to in the middle of 2020 was when I finally started to kickstart all of this and begin like my modern day Alex Studios era. I guess back in 2014 when I officially started doing all of this was like my legacy Alex Studios era. I was mainly focused on one certain type of story, which I won't go into any explanation into in this interview, like later in the future. But that was pretty much just like my stepping stone until late 2019 when I finally started to develop more creativity on expanding my storytelling skills onto other assets. Eventually, that's where I started to begin making different kinds of stories now, and thus officially began the modern day Alex Studios era and kickstarted the ACM.
So that's what we mean when we say ACM. Now we don't have to. Now people know.
Yeah, but definitely note that the ACM is not connected with the Immersiverse.
September 2023. You wanted to start animation, I think? Or you had already started animation?
2023, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose back at that time, I wanted to get Scratch Evolutions ready to enter production. I guess I had like this mindset where I wanted to have SR be made behind the scenes while the other projects were going on. So initially, the idea I had was when the other projects that were currently being made finish, like Scratch's Elites and Chaos Squad, and also that at that time the Uninvited. When those projects finished, eventually by that time, SR would finish production and be ready for release. Eventually, after that, at that time, when all those projects were done, I would be able to get started with getting SR ready to release at that time, which was the original plan.
It looks here like you brought up the idea of starting work on SR, and then if it got finished, or potentially finishing it before Scratch's Elites and Chaos Squad, because Scratch's Elites was basically dead in the water at that point. Like, I think episode 2 just finished, and I think Hydra was just having trouble getting the ball rolling again. Like, not a disservice to him. He did really good with that, but I think he was just kind of having trouble getting the momentum building again, is what I mean. So then, it looks here like you were suggesting Scratch Revolutions, if it got finished before SE and Chaos Squad, that you would release it, despite them not being released. So do you want to walk us through your thought process before I go further into the...
Yeah, I suppose I just had like fear in my head. Production on SC was going very slow, and as well as with the other projects down the line, I guess I just kind of pictured within my mind that if it were to be this slow, then eventually hype on any future Immersiverse projects would die down eventually, and probably not gain as much reception that it used to with the Unfamous. So, I guess as a last resort kind of thing, I wanted to start work on SR right away. Hopefully, be able to, I guess, release it around that time where the Immersiverse was still popular. I guess I was just kind of scared of not being able to get it to like a good reception that it used to with the Unfamous. Like, I was just afraid of it not doing pretty well as it would do earlier. I kind of just wanted to release it earlier so that way it would still be able to bring hype within the Immersiverse to gain like give it some kind of like a kickstart back into like the hype that the Immersiverse generated with the Unfamous and earlier SC. Along with that other extra fear that I had that if I was to wait until later to get started, then eventually I was also afraid of time doing its part, that if I wasn't able to start eventually and not get it out now, there would be like this, my interest with the Immersiverse would kind of die down, and I would just kind of just slowly lose interest in making my project a reality, I guess. So as a coping method, I just decided to work on SR in behind the scenes so I can still get like still have this sense of connection that I still have with the that I had with the Immersiverse and with SR. So that way I kind of would just simply just feel like I was still a part of it, I suppose.
Scrolling through the discussion here, kind of seems like we talked you out of that, kind of like said like it needs a, if you want to do that, it would need a rewrite because it leaned heavily on SC and Chaos Squad SR as it stood with the draft I gave you.
Yeah. I guess right now in my cognitive state, right now, I would actually believe that I guess the rewrite would be the most logical thing to do in terms of having it be rewritten away from the SC and CS and stuff like that. But I guess back then I just wasn't really able to listen in properly because I was just too deep within my original SR draft. So that's why I just kept rolling with it, I guess.
Is there anything that happened in the following months that you recall, or?
Well, I guess a little bit of small but essential dilemmas that went on with SR progress and its rewrites. I guess I just went ahead and added newer recent things that concurred with the events of some recent movies that came out in 2023. I wanted to see if I would be able to inspire some of those elements into the draft, like across the Spider-Verse, and with I guess a Spot as a villain. I wanted to incorporate that into like the main bad guy of the film. I also knew from the fact that met a lot of pushback from the team, which right now in my cognitive state I would definitely agree with that, but back then I just didn't really listen to it all because once again I was just too deep within the getting the draft quote unquote perfect, I guess. So I just went on with it, I guess.
It was kind of like perfect for you, right? So you were like, I don't really see why we need a rewrite.
Yeah.
It was perfect for you, but not perfect
I guess
for
it was
everyone else.
Yeah. Probably like the very first version, the very first draft that you proposed, I think if we could have done like just the main important essential rewrites, that would have been important at that time, then I think it would have worked pretty decently. But I guess because of my state back then, I guess sadly I just wasn't able to breeze through all of it. What's the word? I guess I was just too over focused on quote unquote making it perfect, I guess. In my eyes, unfortunately. And because of that I was pretty much blind to see the feedback I was given by the team to fix those errors back then. And because of that, since I was like so focused on the draft back then, the more feedback that I was given, grudged I had to keep holding on to that original draft and resisting more to change.
That was kind of the first mention of rewriting SR, and it was in the context of that conversation. That was September 2023. If you do a search, you'll find my next serious mention of it is April of 2024, where I just kind of say my writing, my original draft, I said was bad, and then I kind of I recommend it. Okay, let me read. Quote, upon further review of the SR script, I'm going to admit it's really not that good. That probably hurts me the most considering I wrote a good 75% of the thing. It has its moments, but overall, definitely worth considering to rewrite it. It feels very No Way Home, and to James's point, does really just feel like a nostalgia beat across the head of, look, it's old villains. So I made that comment with the context of, yeah, it's just No Way Home. It's good storytelling. What's it called? Does it work within the immersiverse? I was looking kind of like bigger picture, but with your added context, yeah, I can see how that comes across. Like, that's the point of it, right? To rehash Unfamous and Scratch Saga and those other franchises. So to see it like kind of like attacked like that.
Mm-hmm.
And again in July of 2024, and then November of 2024, December of 2024, January of 2025, February of 2025. So what's going on in your mind during all that time?
Well, in 2024, the beginning of 2024 was when animation finally began, or SR. It was using at that time I discovered a whole new process of animating. So I was checking my email back at that time, which was where I got like a newsletter from Linearity, and that was at that time when I first heard about Linearity Move. I didn't know about it back then, but I saw that it was like a vector animating app. Pretty basic, but still looked like it could do a good job. So I went ahead and downloaded it, experimented with it, and eventually it blew my mind so much to the point where I initially started using that as the official software being used to animate SR, which also meant at the time that SR would no longer be considered a Scratch releasable project and more like a YouTube exclusive. And I was able to get like 10 minutes done for like the whole thing so far, which was pretty much between January of 2024 to 2025.
Okay.
And I think after that, I believe where I got one more, the final mention of you mentioning for a rewrite, and I believe that was, I think, the part that you sent in your essay containing the reasonings for it, I believe.
I will say though, the 10 minutes you animated, that was really good. I submit that opinion once more.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So the essay, what were you thinking with that? But
About the essay?
yeah, the revelation of revolutions.
Yeah. Well, I at first my initial thoughts were the flight or fight response. I guess I was just trying my best to resist the change of initially greenlighting a rewrite, but as I went through and read the points that you made out, I guess a part of myself did eventually came into to the point where I did agree that SR was kind of in need of a rewrite, and for definitely the good reasons that you pointed out in the essay. But still, at that time, I was resisting to go for a rewrite because at that time I was just happy with the original draft. Like, I guess at that time I thought it was already optimal enough, but after some heavy agreement with the rest of the team, eventually I ultimately decided to give in and greenlight the rewrite. I was even as always. I was definitely emotionally conflicted with it. After that, I guess I was just definitely angry at myself. But eventually, something did manage to calm my nerves a little bit, and I just decided to be open with it and see what would the new rewrite entail. So I just decided to see what would happen. I guess so far things have been shaping out hopeful for the next few months coming forward with it.
Or if we kind of branch off just a little bit before we dive into that rewrite. You said you were angry at yourself. I can see being angry at me, being angry at others, but like, why are you angry at yourself? I don't really see a reason for that, I don't think.
Well, I guess I was just mainly very angry, in all honesty. Definitely angry towards you on my behalf, on your behalf. But at the same time, I was also angry at myself because I was pretty sad that I wasn't able to appropriately defend my case for keeping the original draft in mind, I guess. Don't mind me real quick, I'm having dinner right now, so yeah.
Oh, my bad.
No worries, all good.
You're not at the call at the dining table, are you?
Yeah, I just moved to the dining table right now. My mom just served me ravioli right now.
Oh,
It's pretty good.
very nice. Pasta.
Yes.
Hello, Mrs. Studios Inc. Or Mrs. Laudel.
Oh, she's back in her room.
So, walk me through the rewrite process from what you remember.
Well, I guess from how I initially remembered it, initially what I did had in mind was to branch in Soul's current universe that she was making in works with the Unfamous Reignited. I wanted to also include that in with the new SR draft, since as it was being rewritten, it would have been the perfect time for that. I guess at that time it was also where Infinity Gears was being rewritten for, I think, the fourth time. I think the third time. Yeah, it was like third time Infinity Gears was getting rewritten, which was going to be made exclusive towards Soul's universe AU, which was going to happen at some point after Wildfire, which was also going to connect in with the new SR as well. One of the original villains from Phase 2 did make its way back into SR as well. It was like a villain named it was like a villain with a clock for a head named Emmett, which ironically is time in reverse, believe it or not. It's like Aerith and Rita, now there's Emmett. There was also this plan that SR as a store was going to be very complex. So complex, in fact, that we initially had the idea to split it off into 3 parts, I suppose. Each part with a different name. There was, let me see if I can remember. I think there was Scratch Resolutions, Scratch Resurrections, which was part 2, and then after that would be Scratch Revolutions as the final part. The original story was going to be like a whole literal multiverse of madness, but like an actual, like, literal multiverse of madness, not like Doctor Strange, but like a real multiverse. I guess the heroes from the mainline universe, the main Immersiverse, they were going to be like split off from their home world and be transported into different Scratch universes. And at the time, I think they were trying to, trying to either recruit new heroes to fight off the main bad guy, or just trying to find their way back to their home world. And at that time, there's going to be like this other extra villain there, which was going to eat off universes of every single Scratch home. Like, even like the Scratch Saga would be eaten by Ritz. I think that was the first name we had for Ritz, and after it became what's it? I think it was Axios. I think it was Axios after that. That was all that I initially remembered. Aside from there was gonna be like a submerged AU, which would be something similar to Subnautica, where like the Immersiverse characters would be having an underwater like mission to find new heroes and even new characters outside of Scratch as well, which was surprising at the time. There was, of course, there would also be the Infinity Gears, also / Wildfire universe at that time, and a few other universes that were unique and never been mentioned before until it got drafted in, as well as some new characters as well. I think that's all that I remember so far from the new SR draft. That was like its first earliest stages between April to June of 2025. And then after that, I guess that was when a lot of deviations happened after that. The Scratch AUs were essentially scrapped for different immersive timeline worlds instead. Like there would be like an Egyptian AU, the submerged AU, I think like a 1940s AU too, and medieval version. At that time, all of this I believed was incredible. At that time, I thought it was pretty amazing for a future Scratch Revolutions project. But at the same time, in which I wasn't able to see it until later on, was when I actually recognized that eventually I was starting to feel disconnected from my own project. Like it was just pretty much no longer the Scratch Revolutions that I knew from my heart, the one that I initially grew up with and envisioned to make it for the project that I wanted to release. So
It's like you had all this like cool ideas and your own cool stuff, and everyone else had their own ideas and stuff, and you're like, oh, this is all really cool, until it starts edging out your stuff. Like you were like, oh yeah, you guys can have your stuff in this too, it's gonna be awesome, all this like stuff, until it starts edging out like your stuff. Then you're like, hold on, wait a minute.
yeah, I guess it was kind of like that. I suppose it just got to that point where my mind just slowly began to dawn on a realization that it's just pretty much getting all too much for me, I guess. Eventually, I just slowly and surely didn't really recognize it as my own project anymore.
It was about July, probably.
Yeah, I think that was on July. I think it was. I think I managed to gain those realizations once I initially handed directorship to Robot.
Rifling through some stuff, I don't remember that. The robot getting directorship, did you give that to him, or?
Oh no, wait, as in directorship of SR? Oh no, I was referring to directorship of SE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as I gave that away, it cleared off my directorship roles away from my mind, and it pretty much gave me an empty space for me to actually think a little bit more towards what has been happening lately. When I was giving away my stuff, my brain just pretty much let all of these things go, which left an open spot in my mind where I was actually able to realize what has really been going on, I guess. And as I was slowly giving away, slowly lifting out those things that I initially had ownership with, it was pretty much clearing out those things in my mind, where I guess all of those, my initial mindset of my leadership and somewhat ego-ish role, slowly lifting away and starting to actually come to pretty much more down to earth, I guess, somewhat. It was pretty much where I was able to think a little bit, I guess, just a tiny bit more logically, and pretty much see a little bit more of what has been going on with a little bit more clarity.
July, maybe August, and then the SR server got shut down. So with all that walk us through what was happening, like building up to your retirement in September.
So in August was when I was pretty much exploring more opportunities and finally able to focus on outside things outside of the Immersiverse. Pretty much been mainly focused more on my education as well as where I could expand my opportunities to incorporate my work on other things outside of the Immersiverse. And that was where I came across Lumea Legends and Run from Royalty. And those projects kind of interest me a lot as a whole, and I've been willing to contribute a lot of my interest towards providing work for Josh, who is the creator of Lumea Legends, and wanted to see how I would be able to contribute in some form or fashion. So through a few connections I had, I was able to get in touch with him. He was pretty interested. He was pretty pleased with my portfolio, and he said I'd be willing to help co-write a few of his mini skits following a bat and a mouse. So I was pretty pleased to hear that. So I was able to earn a new role, and at that point, that was where I finally had the realization that since I'm starting to contribute more onto other things lately, it was finally time for me to let go of the Immersiverse at some point, because it was pretty much at that point where I finally had that thought where my time has come. So after that, a few days in, I started work on my final project, and after it was ready, a few days in, I started winding down SR production and shut down the server, and after that I shared my final project. And well, pretty much went from there.
So you were working with, oh man, I can only remember Ruling Royalty. I can't remember the other name, unfortunately.
Run from Royalty
Run from
and
Royalty.
and Lumea Legends.
Lumea Legends.
I think
Run from
yeah,
Royalty.
this was Run for sorry. Lumea Legends is the universe name. Run for Royalty is a project inside of that universe.
Ah, alright. So you've been working on those since September, or what else happened that year?
Tiny bit. Well, I've been doing tiny bits of work for him lately after that. And then as I was also doing that, I've just been... The majority of my time has been prioritized on my academics and education, trying to excel on my work at school, and at the same time also doing some work at my local grocery store. And alongside that, I've also been putting my attention towards a new community server that I've been for 5 years, and finally putting my attention towards it. It's the server where Ruby Illusion has, and that's also where I was able to score my first gig as Toothless for Toothless' Story. I was pretty much been active there, and now I'm a full-time moderator there.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, that's been what's happening lately.
It seemed like you had it all kind of lined up. You were retired from the Immersiverse, kind of left on a... Well, you retired. You didn't go on a blaze of fury or anything. Like,
Yeah.
it was pretty peaceful, like, apart from the losing SR thing, so...
There was something else. I had another personality, like another aspect towards what I wanted to do what I wanted to do, but I would explain that a little later for when we get to like the main heavier topics and stuff like that.
So it seemed like you would kind of distance yourself. What kind of pulled you back in December?
I guess it was just a build-up of steam from a grief-like feeling of me towards my original draft of SR. I was very upset about it, and I wasn't able to let it go at that time. Eventually, as a way to get my feelings out there and pretty much vent about it. I pretty much wrote a full essay about it by emotional thought first and not logistics. Like it wasn't really full on a thinking process. It was all just done by emotion. And on December, when I came back, I was, I guess, just at my lowest point with my relationship towards the Immersiverse. I was just internally debating whether or not I wanted to post the essay within the server, but I guess my emotions just flooded in, and because of all my anger that kept inside me for so long, and that steam has always been building since the SR rewrite got greenlit, I went ahead and sent it, and I left without a single comment after that. And yeah, we all know how that went.
Was that the reaction you were expecting?
Yeah, I guess that was like most of it. What my egoish mind just, I guess I just wanted to just wanted to get my point of view across from how I was feeling from the whole experience on SR. But yeah, I guess it was just all too much, I guess.
I think Mr. Grump asked this when you came back earlier, but I think a thing a lot of us got hung up on was this last line. That I think if you read all of this by itself, you can kind of see it's like, oh yeah, it's he's just trying to get his point of view out. But I think what we all kind of focused on was, quote, didn't say I tried to warn you all. What do you mean by that?
I guess when I initially thought of it, I guess I was just trying at those moments back when the rewrite was proposed. I was just insinuating that I was just still refusing to greenlight the rewrite. I guess what I meant by that was, I guess there was just like maybe like some warning signs that eventually, if it did get greenlit, it would kind of lead up to something like this. But I guess it wasn't really appropriately said from the way that I meant. And honestly, I kind of debated internally whether or not I should remove it or not, but since I was angry at the time, I just went with it. And still, I wrote that because it was just all from emotion and not by thinking logistically. So
Gave you the invite back to the server, or did you just like hang on to one?
like the as of today, as of recent.
Well, recent and back in December, I guess.
For December, I just joined it back from the invite that was on YouTube.
Oh.
And yeah, and as of recent, the invite no longer works anymore. But as I was finally calming myself down, and I guess trying to renew myself a little bit, I felt a little bit more comfortable to rejoin back anymore. Just a slow, proper, and just a proper welcome, I guess. So I checked to see if the invite was working, and it wasn't. So I just turned to my IRL friend V, who was in the SC server, and she provided me with the invite link. With much hesitation and debating, I went ahead and came back.
Oh, in December, that was like a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah,
Like you were just sitting there one day and you're like, this is it.
yeah. I just wasn't able to keep these feelings in my head anymore.
Is there a reason you did it publicly, or is it just because you're like, oh well, I don't have an invite to the private server, so?
Yeah, I guess it was just because I was just not in the Immersiverse server anymore. I feel like if I was able to think a little more clearly, I would just at least just DM the essay. That way it wasn't really public, but my mind wasn't in that day.
Do you know about all the other things that were going on that week?
Of course, I knew for a fact that would pretty much be frowned upon by the community since then. I just didn't really pay attention to it all that much because, of course, I wasn't really in the server anymore, but I was mainly more prioritizing more of my RL things lately than to get dwindled within the drama because I had other fears to worry about. But eventually as I was renewing myself, it just felt bad. Internally, I was just feeling very bad about it. A part of myself thinks maybe I could have done things a little bit differently. I guess things just happened.
I don't know if you want to like dwell on it, but the month after, like the aftermath of like December and like January, what was going through your mind?
Well, I did eventually, once I've received word the SR would be continued without my control. A part of myself did feel sad about it, but I was able to move on from it pretty quickly since it was no longer in my mindset anymore. So regardless of whether it got leaked, released, or whatever, I just didn't really care about it anymore since it was no longer in my heart to commit to it anymore.
So what happened in the following months, like the past 6 months now?
Well, I guess things slowly but surely, gradually started getting a little better. I've been excelling more on my academics, been doing work lately on some external coding projects now. I was able to code a Discord bot for Ruby and the server, which I'm pretty happy about. And it was also where I finally started production work on Toothless and Light Fairy. Around that time, I guess that's where I also just pretty much started to advance more on my skills and stuff like that. As of May, I finally graduated from high school and I got my high school diploma. Now where my mom and I are planning to move to Texas, which is where we'll be able to find ourselves a pretty decent job with really stable income.
You have time to kind of reflect on the letter, on the Immersiverse at all since then?
Personally, I often looked back on the essay I made, and a part of myself does regret ever making it. Like, I still feel like I could have done things a little bit differently, but because my mind wasn't in the game that year, and of course I still had that, like, this Immersiverse ego I still had with me. But I guess it just gives me a good reminder for me that to remind myself not to become the person that I was back then when I was so overly focused on my own things that I wasn't able to see the bigger picture, I guess. And because I was able to let go of all the things that were in my head for those years, I was able to renew my mind a little bit and just pretty much been trying to do better, I guess.
Keep bringing up this thing of the ego, the egoish, the Immersiverse ego. Like, what do you mean by that?
I guess I'll admit it's a part of myself that makes me cringe for my life. That ego where initially I believed I was the big head of the Immersiverse, because of the initial follower count I had on my Scratch profile, since I just felt like that I would have been able to gain more popularity and attention within the Immersiverse, and I thought I was fully able to commit to something like that. And I was able to deliver all those sorts of kinds of things that just weren't truly possible with the Immersiverse before. I guess that's just the part that brainwashed me a little bit to become a really, if I were to be blatantly honest and outright, I guess a narcissistic person within the Immersiverse. After clearing everything out of my mind, I guess I just regret it. I just regret it all my life.
How have you been addressing that recently, I guess? Like, it sounds like you came to the realization, but especially with, like, TLF, you're like the big head of that now.
And in Illusion World, or?
Toothless Light Fury is. Like, you're the head of that now, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Well, I guess I am the big head of Toothless and Light Fury as a director and such, but I'm being more tame about things now. I guess I'm a little bit more quiet on how things run a little bit, trying to be more open with the team a little bit more now. While things have been quietly progressing in the background, eventually I am just trying to maintain a more calm approach on things, and slowly but surely being able to share some things along the way once I'm able to share some new advancements with the project.
Here's the way I was presenting it, and you let me know if you agree.
Yeah.
There were communication and miscommunication issues. Like there was not a lot of communication, too much miscommunication. Like you didn't really make it clear your ideas, your like big vision for it. So when I came in with the draft, though you said it was perfect, kind of like a fulfilling of your original vision, but like with all the different rewrites and stuff, and you said this yourself, like you weren't able to properly defend yourself, so we weren't able to, we as a team weren't able to communicate with you, and I think that's where it started falling through, where we were kind of strong-arming you and not trying to understand. Like I do all this talk in the team about like, oh, original vision, talk to the original creator, the big three. And then I was like, kind of like not really taking the time to ask you like, hey, what's your big vision for SR?
I guess it all just came down to two factors why I wasn't able to defend myself properly. In terms of when I'm under pressure, and if there's much more of a higher say with the team, that my own opinion just slowly gets a little weaker on time. I guess it just makes my voice just a little weaker. The second factor was that if I tried to defend it, original, like if I was just to defend it the way I would have defended it back then obviously, because how I would have said it and interpreted it, then the whole team would most likely just come to disagree on all of that. Because of that, my miscommunication would just lead us to a much lower pit, I guess. Yeah, I guess because I was just not able to defend my case with my original SR. Because of it, I guess I just ultimately gave in, went along, I guess.
If you were building the Immersiverse from scratch, pun not maybe intended, how do you think you would format it? Yeah, I guess team, administration, like what are some principles you would instill, especially with your experience with SR production, workflow structure, I guess?
For me personally, as a project maker that usually does a lot of the heavy lifting myself, I would usually create just one project at a time. Slow but crafty process. Kind of like with how I'm doing with the ACM right now. But if it were to have been about speed and getting projects faster while still keeping their quality intact, I would probably bring in the people that I knew best as storytellers, and they'd be able to create their own project from there. We as a community would be able to access help from each other.
Like outside.
I think that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, kind of like that outside town. Yeah.
Is there anyone you've noticed? I know you've only been here like a week or so, or is there anyone you remember thinking in the community server or on Scratch and seeing them and thinking like, they're Immersiverse head material?
Well, of course there's Robot. I know he's doing a lot of most of the heavy lifting, and I think he's doing decently well. I think he's doing pretty good with that. There's also, there's also Soul as well, who I also see from time to time. But I think that was pretty much those two people that I come to know of that are mostly the most active in the community server.
Kind of like talking to the Immersiverse heads, because I know a few of them are like kind of shaky with you, so I was just wondering what your plan was with that.
Wait a second, I'm so sorry, repeat that real quick.
Your plan to, I guess, make up with the heads, or is that how your plan is, like, bygones be bygones, so that's it?
Well, I won't be as active in the community server as I used to be, since I'm mostly doing a lot of things in IRL and also prioritizing also my activity more in Illusion World, which is the Ruby server. I guess I'll pop in from the time to time to see how everyone's doing, and also I'd be open to any small help if anyone needs it as well. I think it would be pretty nice.
Rewind back to SR just one last time, probably. Like, I saw the. Do you see the He-Man Masters of the Universe movie?
I haven't seen it yet, but I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. But part of the charm of it was like it kind of felt like the original cartoon. Like it felt like goofy and campy with like the same like Saturday morning cartoon humor. But it still was like kind of grounded, kind of like serious at times. It had like a good mix of it, I think. Mr. Grump's seeing it today, so I'll ask him his thoughts, but I really enjoyed it. And it's got me thinking, like, I think I was too hard on SR. Like, when I said, like, oh, SR is bad. I'm, like, thinking now, like, but you liked He-Man, and it was goofy, and, like, kind of serious at times when it recognized that it needed to be. Why couldn't we let SR be goofy, kind of campy, that same, like, scratch humor, like I think you've said this to me before. It's supposed to kind of be like a culmination of scratch storytelling, and I was trying to like get rid of the scratch humor of it.
Yeah, I guess there was just like this charm that the Scratch Saga and the Unfamous had. It was not too over blatantly serious. It was just a balance between like that Saturday morning humor, that humor charm that it had with Scratch projects, and a small bits of seriousness that it had. It was like a perfect balance between the two.
Marvel movies starting to lean more into the comic accurate costumes, realizing like it's serious, but like guys, come on, we're in a, let's be real.
Yeah,
here.
like the Fantastic Four in 2015.
Yeah, with like the black suits and like the X-Men, like all black leather.
Yeah.
And then you remember, oh yeah, there's a guy with claws coming out of his hands. Like, what are we doing? Let's have fun with it. Alright, I think that's it for the heavy stuff. So, well, thank you for your time. This really means a lot.
Of course, and thank you for interviewing me. It was really great.
Ladies and gentlemen, and dragons, I guess.
Yes.
Not Alex Studios Inc. Aziolotl. He's back in the Merciverse Discord, so hit him up. Become a first-time employee of Alex Studios Inc.
And we pay our employees too.
The Merciverse doesn't pay you. There we go. Point of comparison. Peak marketing.
I'm gonna drop you off right on top of it.
I haven't seen the Game
Yeah.
of First pilot yet. It looks good though.
Oh, knowing you, I think you may be interested.
Hey, editor no one, this is where you're gonna flash a thing of Kit on the screen, okay? And another one. And another one.